Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's special episode of the Maritime Morning Brief, brought to you by the Marine Exchange of Puget Sound. I am your host today, Sarah, and I'm here with Executive Director Patrick Gallagher.
Hello, everybody.
And we are here with an extra special guest, Washington House Representative of the 23rd Legislative District, member on the House Transportation and Post-Secondary and Workforce Committees, avid Washington State ferry rider. I have seen Greg Nance.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We are just really excited to be in the Capitol today, chatting with everyone. So could you give us a little introduction about yourself, introduce you to all the viewers here, and kind of what you're doing here in Olympia this session?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my name is Greg Nance, and I proudly represent Kitsap in the State House. I am a lifelong ferry rider.
I saw that in your bio.
Yeah.
Self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed. And I am really fortunate. I grew up on the shores of Puget Sound, and a lot of my fondest memories as a kid, swimming Manzanita Bay, watching the big ships roll in, and just being really, really fascinated from a young age. Like, wow, like where did that massive ship come from? And having my dad show me on a globe, it came from over here, pointing at China on the globe, and just being really curious and feeling really lucky that we live in the kind of place where big ships are rolling in. A lot of folks earn their living fishing or crewing. It's just a special place. And I realized that from a young age, and I get a huge kick out of the fact, all these years later, I now have a hand in trying to create better policy that encourages the next generation to step up for our maritime workforce and to help ensure that we've got robust supply chains and we've got a Seattle and a Washington economy that works for everybody.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. I love that. So what really inspired you to run? What made you make the leap?
Hey, so I was a very happy nonprofit executive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had been working on college access and youth mental health and building pretty remarkable teams to take on really big challenges in those spaces. And little by little, I became a little frustrated that even though our team was doing all this great work, I feel like we were getting farther away from the goal of universal college access and of universal youth mental health, and realized in time that, hey, look, if our policies aren't quite right, even all the well-meaning good folks doing good work, it's just you're facing pretty intense headwinds. We need policy that actually gives us tailwind. And I didn't want to be the kind of person that complained about all that. And so instead started knocking on doors initially for school board, friends running for that, and then realized, look, we also need stronger policies at the state level. And I don't want to be a complainer. I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring and get after it. And a couple years later, haven't looked back.
Nice. So, I mean, you've got an impressive background. You're an entrepreneur. You went to University of Chicago. You've done a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. Where do you think all that comes from? Like, where's your drive?
Hey, so I grew up playing sports, and just about every sport, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, tennis. And I'll confess to our listeners, I wasn't very good at any of those sports, but I loved being part of a team, and I love the process of just everyday practicing, trying to improve. And I finally found my thing my senior year of high school. I went out for the cross country and track team, and pretty quickly I was like, finally I'm actually good at something. And I just threw all of that kind of like willpower and discipline I'd learned playing other sports into something where I had a little bit of a talent. And in short order, like, wow, like it's a lot more fun to actually go win stuff than just be on the bench all the time. And that has been really my my kind of lens into the world of like, go apply yourself, find problems that really interest you, that you're curious about. And if you apply a lot of energy and drive and determination and a little bit of talent, a lot of good collaboration, you can solve massive, massive challenges, problems, issues, and turn those obstacles into opportunities.
Is that where you think when you run?
I do every day. And I am this coming Thursday in 2 days, I will celebrate 5 years of running every single day.
Wow.
And my big ahas are out on the roads of Olympia or Kitsap, as I'm thinking. So,
yeah. Wow. So it's pretty meditative for you.
Very meditative. Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
So what's been going on here in Olympia for you with those running ahas? How are we putting those to work here in the Capitol?
Yeah. So as many listeners know, we are looking head on at a very large set of budgetary challenges. At last count, a $15 billion budget deficit. And within that deficit, unprecedentedly large for our state, there are opportunities for us to reprioritize and to be really thoughtful about the limited dollars that we do have to spend. And that's been really helpful as a guy who represents one of the most ferry-dependent districts in the state. Kitsap, we've got the Kingston, the Bainbridge, and the Bremerton terminals. Thousands of folks make their living on the other side of the water, and then thousands more rely on a steady flow of tourists to actually frequent their small businesses. It's a really big deal for us, and we were told at the outset of session, a really tough set of economic factors are getting even tougher, and a lot of uncertainty. With all of that, we've got to think outside the box in order to solve these set of challenges. And so part of it's taking care of just core fundamentals, maintenance and preservation on boats, equipping, our crews from our engineers to our deck to our repair shops with the skilled technicians that we're going to need in each of those. And then how do we get boats on the water faster and cheaper? And I started really, really turning my mind on that question over the interim, meeting hundreds of folks that work in maritime, from folks at WSF, lots of crew there, to folks that actually operate smaller vessels and fleets, and not only in Seattle, but actually across the country. And little by little started putting together some ideas. And that a couple of those seeds planted turned into the Mosquito Fleet Act, House Bill 1923, where we are aiming to get boats on the water faster and cheaper by empowering counties and ports and tribes to launch passenger-only ferry service to solve the problems in their neck of the woods, just like Kitsap Transit Fast Ferries have really solved a key challenge and a key hiccup for us in the Kitsap community.
Sure seems like it has a lot of support. I read it over and I've been tracking that one. That one's really interesting. Yeah. So you want to speak to some of that support and how do you build that kind of community?
Yeah. So I, over the interim, traveled all around the Puget Sound Basin and was meeting with community leaders and kept hearing a lot of the same things, which is WSF was so reliable for so long, we almost took it for granted. And now we're on year 6 of ferry service disruptions with cancellations and service cuts. And that has really taken it out of our neighbors, folks missing work, missing school, missing the doctor. And that's really, really tough. Hearing from local communities, there was just a ton of creative energy about here's what we would like to do. I then learned that there's statutory prohibitions from launching passenger-only ferry service. Only King and Kitsap are exempted from that prohibition. And I thought for a second, whoa, in this moment in time where we really need to be meeting the challenges of the day, we need this basic tool available where these boats are far cheaper to acquire, easier to staff, and very, very agile in where they can go. And so in the San Juans, learned quickly that folks need to get up to Bellingham to get to the doctor. Well, great. We can get a 25 or 70 seater to provide that medical access. And without having to do a big marina or terminal overhaul, we can just dock it right there at the public marina. Folks in the Whidbey, Everett, Hat Island Triangle, their healthcare needs, their workforce needs, let's get folks around more agilely than waiting for hours on end for the ferry to arrive. And then in the South Sound with Vashon, Des Moines, and then South Downtown, really efficient way to actually move folks around. And so really, a lot of local folks have great ideas. I think oftentimes our state and federal governments aren't always the best at listening to local communities. And so it's been really gratifying, just our ports, our tribes, our local chambers of commerce, our county officials and municipalities, fantastic ideas, tons of vision. And let's equip them with the tools they need to then solve really challenging problem much faster and cheaper than the state can.
Great. Tell us about kelp.
Yes. So I, since I was a little guy, have been working on Puget Sound recovery. When I was a first grader way back in the day, I had the chance to walk the shores of Puget Sound with the Suquamish elder. And that day I learned a really important lesson that every one of us has a role to play in keeping our environment clean and helping, this beautiful waterway with all the wonderful marine life there. As the years went by, learned more about just this wonderfully complex ecosystem. And for the last 32 million years, kelp has been the keystone species in that, where kelp in the cold waters of the Pacific, from Northern California to the Alaskan Panhandle, the most complex, richest ecosystems have evolved around kelp. And part of that is you get little juvenile salmon as they come out of their natal stream and they start heading into cold marine waters. The first place they look for are kelp forests, because within that canopy, they can hide from predators. And then they have all of their favorite foods right there where they can munch, they grow. And as they get bigger and stronger, they've got the energy they need to head out to the deeper waters of the Pacific. And so if we want, and this legislature, our state, our taxpayers have invested billions of dollars now into salmon recovery. The key missing link in all of this is kelp, where we've lost over 90% of our kelp canopy because of industrialization, because of pollution, and because of warming waters, and because of ocean acidification. We've got to turn the tide. We've set a goal of 10,000 acres of kelp forest here in Puget Sound, and we're actually ahead of schedule on that goal, which is pretty awesome. I want to get more kids involved, more families involved into conservation, because every kid deserves that moment of realizing I can be part of the solution.
And this is an industry. I mean, kelp is a big business in other states.
Hey,
But it's hard here. It's hard to get permitting. It's hard, and I know there's a lot of issues around it, but I know in Maine, I know in Alaska and other places around the world, this is an industry, like active farming of kelp, which has obviously, many benefits that you've already described. So I think that's great. And then, so did you introduce something to make something? What was it about kelp forests or the state? What was that? I forget.
Yeah. So the specific legislation, House Bill 1631, would designate kelp as the state's marine forest.
Gotcha.
State's marine forest. What is that? Well, it's literally underwater, and it's this incredibly dynamic ecosystem, as I described. One of the cool benefits of this, it can be up to 18 times better at removing carbon from the atmosphere than our terrestrial forests. So it's really dynamic, and I want to get more kids learning about this. Yeah. And when I hosted my elementary school, the Ordway Otters, shout out Ordway.
My kids went there.
Oh, fantastic. I love that, man. I'm a very proud booster here. When I host these guys, I'm getting quizzed about, well, what's the state vegetable? I didn't realize it was the onion, apparently. And so it's really fun where, small tweaks here in the legislature, we can actually get thousands of kids thinking about something in a totally new way. They come home, they tell mom or dad or their big brother, big sister, and all of a sudden we're mobilizing thousands and then millions of new conservationists to help protect our waterways and to just think about the sea in a new way.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Sea Potential. If you haven't heard of them, we've hung out with them a lot, but they just remove barriers for kids to access the water, basically, because the more kids we got around the water, more it brings them into conservation, to loving the water, to maritime, perhaps, and therefore.
We have found that early access, you've already touched upon it, but this is a consistent theme, just to get young people involved, get them into the water and get them out on the water, and to see it from a completely different view has a profound impact on people.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. My goodness. Yes.
Yeah. So that's something we're trying to promote as well. So we love hearing that. That's fantastic. So what's something that makes you just absolutely rage, but then something else that we just need to chill out about?
Oh, okay. So that makes me rage. So there's a lot of really terrible driving, and I almost got hit by a fellow merging with no blinker an hour ago when I was driving to the Capitol. So that is high on my list right now. Hey guys, let's be slightly more patient and patient with one another to keep everybody safe right now. Because I passed an accident, and then a few miles down the road, someone's driving through. So that had I don't know if I was raging per se, but I was like,
it's okay.
Yeah, please be nice out there, be kind, drive kind. And then the other part of this is rave.
No, what's something that we all just kind of need to chill out about?
Okay.
Yeah.
I get a little depressed reading a lot of the national news right now, and one of the takeaways for me is that I can really just feel really discouraged about a lot of what's going on. And I know there's a lot of people really scared, really frustrated, not knowing what's coming next. And part of, I say chill, it's let's take stock of what we can control together and really focus on those elements. And then there are some things that are just are beyond our control, and having a little serenity as we approach that, I think can be helpful and useful. Because I do way more than my fair share of doom scrolling. What's the latest outrage? And I really want to encourage, especially if there's young people listening, that a lot of the stuff is not good for our mental health. And let's be there to encourage and inspire each other to take action on things that we really can change in this moment.
I think that's a great way to end this podcast. That sounds like leadership to me, and I appreciate yours. I've been following you very closely, and I just really appreciate everything that you've done for this industry and how you're representing us.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Thank you, Representative Nance.
As we close this out, is there any final words you want to give to people, and how can they stay in touch with you? How can they follow you, keep up?
I appreciate folks tuning in and their support. It's going to take all hands on deck here, a little maritime pun for those listening, in order for us to work through some of the challenges that we face. We need everybody stepping up, playing our role to the best that we can. And with that, I would absolutely love to stay in touch. I'm on Instagram for the cool kids, rep Greg Nance. I'm there. And then I'm old fashioned. I actually love getting emails to hear questions or complaints or suggestions. greg.nance@leg.wa.gov. And I would legitimately love to hear from you if you'd like to write in.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Greg,
My
here
pleasure,
today.
Sarah.
And with that, I think we're going to close out this special episode of the Maritime Morning Brief. We look forward to seeing you all again bright and early tomorrow morning.